From the Spacebird Media Studios, it's Roxanne and Ace Unlimited.
Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. We try to live an unlimited life. I mean, God is unlimited after all. Ace and I have been friends forever. We have adult kiddos. We're very busy with activities. He's a worship leader. I'm a full-time gardener. And we talk Jesus on this show. And we're so excited to have you here. And apparently YouTube is where people are finding us, Ace.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see the platform grow. So thank you for watching. We wave, and we don't. My favorite part is we've had a couple people snap us that they're watching, and they're like putting us on their televisions, which I love. So however you choose to watch or stream, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Of course, thanks to My Brother's Cup and Birmingham Mortgage Group for being a part of this week. We are going to have a chance to talk with Abby Halderstand. Did I say that right? Haberstand?
I think it's Halberstadt. We're going to have her help with
Thank you. Thank you. So she's got a book that's going to help us to kind of decompress some of our thoughts and inputs. So good stuff going on there, but always good to catch up on what's trending this week.
So a guy posted this on Facebook, a question: more than anything else, I want God to use me too. And then there's a blank. How fill in that blank, Ace?
I feel like it would change daily. Because I feel that challenge. But for me this week, it would clearly be to be of a gracious heart. I find myself as I get older and a little more crotchety that I feel like people suck sometimes. And so that's not a good place to be in my heart, especially as a worship leader. I don't want to be in that, space ever. And I don't think that about people. I just usually it's traffic. Usually it's just people in traffic that are my problem. But I feel like if God is going to give us grace, then we have to be willing to show that grace to others.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. Among the answers: change my coworkers' lives, spread his message across the world, lead people in worship. It's a godly desire. So what prevents people from living out that purpose more than anything else, what they want to do for God and God? And of the people that were everyday regular people, walking up to fishermen and tax collectors and people he met, in the streets, living normal lives.
Yeah.
And look what he was able to do with and through them. People think, oh, I don't have vacation, or I'm not old enough, or I'm too old, or I don't know enough about that in order to dive into God's purpose. And I think, we use Peter for instance. He even told Peter, you're going to mess up. You're going to deny me.
Yeah.
And Peter's like, no. And then he did. And then he was like, wow, God can't use me anymore. And then look, God names the whole church after him, calls him the Rock. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I will say, and I love this about God in the standpoint of that all he wants is for us to say yes. Like, Lord, use me, take me where you need me. He's given us the gifts. And when we use them for his appointed time and energies, then that's where we feel peace. We feel at one with him because we know we're doing his work. But so many times we get gifts. So like for me as a musician, I could say, well, look at me. I can play multiple instruments and God's using me. When he could easily take those talents from me in a heartbeat if I made it about myself. But I'm honored to be able to be on any stage or behind a drum kit or any time that allows for people to be in a place, not a place of worship, but where their soul is in a place that they're worshiping God because of the song or because of whatever instrument I'm on. That's an honor for me, because as much as I enjoy playing music, there was a time that I didn't use it to glorify him. And so I love the fact that he chose, it's like, okay, now it's time for you to stop, over here in the bars. Let's go over here and, I need you back in the church. And so if we feel like, well, I'm not qualified to do that, but you know that he's laid that passion on your heart to do it. Just say yes, and he'll surround you with the education and the people and the tools and the resources, and in the actual place where he wants you to use them.
The other excuse people give is I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And I get this one. We think we have to collect a bunch of money in order to have a baby because it's going to be so expensive. But you know what? We find a way to diaper and Phoebe, do we not?
Sure.
Well, I'm not ready. You know, Moses is like, look at how I talk. Look at how old I am. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
But
True.
God says you're ready. And when he says you're ready, like you just said, Ace, he equips you.
Yeah.
And if you just like make yourself available, you can be a part of a miracle that he's doing.
Yeah. Well, and have you thought about this too? Like, because it's a daily reminder for me, like things that happened or that I had opportunities to do when I was like 8, 10, 12 years old that I go back to because at that time, like I thought I heard God's voice, and I was like, God, are you sure that's for me? Are you sure that's you really want me in this you know, and then after kind of dancing away, like, nah, that can't be for me. I'll be over here. You know, we get to that place where now we look at it hindsight and go, wow, that was him. Which what I love for me, this, and I hope this is for anyone, but I can discern God's voice differentiating from my own agenda. So when the voices are in my head, I go, okay, this whisper is him, this scream was me, you know. And so, if anything, where have been those moments where you definitively know, even if you questioned, it's okay. He's a big God, he can handle our questions. But we're supposed to be in that place of peace of like, well, I think, you know, God's calling me to this and he's lining up this because at some point, and how many people have said this to you, Roxanne, how did you get that opportunity? And you were able to go, God opened the door, you know, because you made yourself available.
Mhm. I think that's super important. So just realize he is with you, he is for you, and you can do all things through and with him, that you are more than a conqueror through Christ Jesus. Tiny tricks to help you have a healthier mindset. You and I talked about this before we started this podcast. We really want to be healthy. We're in that place. How do we do that for our mindset? Be in a practice of gratitude. I feel like people almost turn off when they hear this. They're like, oh, I know, I'm supposed to be grateful. We've heard it 500 times, but really, if we look at the economic status in most of the world, if we look at, you know, every day that the pictures coming out of the war-torn parts of the world,
Yeah.
you just got to realize to be able to wake up in a safe environment is huge.
Well, and I also, and again, this comes with age, I think, but I think the sooner we can come to a place where we choose joy over what someone else has said or done to us or not said or not done, you know, we get in that place where we're like, okay, God, I know that you are using me where I'm at. So I'm joyful in the fact that I'm in good sync with you. So if in order for us to get beyond the happenstance of our life, let's get into a groove of, all right, I'm just going to be joyful. It's that joy train. You know, I was actually listening to For King and Country after watching Unsung Hero. I've kind of been in that mood. And so I went back and was listening to, you know, I Choose Joy, and that let it move you. Like that whole, that's like a mantra, a chant even, that can help us to stay in a good place with him.
Allow yourself to feel each emotion. You know, a lot of times we just want to stuff it. And then when we stuff an emotion, we want to find a way to feel better that can have ugly consequences like drinking, eating, shopping, whatever it is that you do to numb out.
Yeah.
When in reality, we need to be able to feel. That doesn't mean wallow in it, it doesn't mean roll around it and stay there, but feel that feeling, let it flow through you, experience, you know. My mother-in-law died this week, and my brave husband not really grieving, crying, showing kind of emotion. I started to get a little worried.
Yeah.
And it was because he wanted to be strong for everybody else. And I love that about him since he's had a good cry. And it was just great
Yeah.
because no one is standing there saying, you can't cry as a man when the mother you adored is no longer with us.
Right.
It's okay to feel our feelings. And I think in a world of buck up, be wrong, men don't cry, that we've got to be able to feel, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm an ugly crier, man, for sure. I mean, that my wife's seen me. I mean, you've seen me ugly cry. Like I'm okay with it. Like I'll just pull the fedora down if I get bags under my eyes or something. But let yourself. All of the emotions we feel are real and they are valid. Now, it doesn't give us the excuse to be ugly or nasty to people, but when you're in a weird headspace, give yourself a chance to go, all right, I'm not there, but I'm going to let myself feel all of this so that I can process through it. Because again, God doesn't help us go around problems, He walks us through it so that we are allowed to feel it. Because now, like Wayne, he now knows others that will come into his path that knows what it's like to lose a parent or to cry as a man. I mean, that's huge.
It is. And God gave us feelings not to make all of our judgment calls as a result of them. But I'm reminded Jesus wept.
Mm,
And I'm so thankful for that very short scripture,
yeah.
as we're reminded he's fully human and yet fully God. And so he cried at the loss of a friend. And I think it's super important. Surround yourself with positivity. What does that mean? Interact with people who make you feel good.
Yeah.
Do you have a friend that just lifts you up, thinks you're, the bee's knees, that just wants to be with you, that wants to laugh with you, and your mood instantly shifts? I'm blessed to be the recipient of that. It's like no matter where I am in life,
Yeah.
when it's time to do our podcast and I get to see precious and I get to smile with you and laugh with you and just realize how important you are to me, Ace. I think,
Mm.
I'm surrounded with positivity.
Yeah. Well, I was actually talking to our good friend Rob Conrad this week, which he tells me when we
Oh,
tell you to hello. He was like, "Hey, are you guys still doing your show?" I was like, "Yeah, every week." He's like, "That's awesome." He's like, "Tell Roxanne I said hi." I was like,
oh,
"Absolutely." So yeah, so it's a joy, and when you do the things, we've said this before, when you do the things you love, it doesn't feel like work, and then God blesses it in the ways that He chooses to. So I feel the same way, and it also, because of you, warms me up with a nice Roxanne blend of coffee. That way, when I'm feeling, either I'm missing you or I need that little, aroma of butterflies and butterscotch in my life, a nice cup makes a big difference.
Well, they chose butterflies for the bag. It is literally the Roxanne blend of coffee. I met a gentleman named Mike who changed his life around and wanted to serve God. And he did it by starting a coffee company whose coffee is very pure. He's so picky about the sources. There's no idea that a lot of coffee you buy is moldy. I
Yeah.
didn't know this.
Mm,
It is so delicious and so fresh. And it's called My Brother's Cup. So go to mybrotherscup.com, click on the Roxanne blend, and it benefits missionaries that travel the world. It's a fabulous investment for somebody you love, including yourself.
yeah.
So get
Well,
you some Roxanne blend. It'll make you happy.
and it may actually help with your email anxiety to relax you a little bit. Gen Z's kind of freaking out just a little bit. I have to say, I'm not a Gen Zer. I am proudly
Mhm.
latchkey kid, baby. But in that, I do not like for the number on my emails or really any of my apps to get into a double digit. And I'm like,
Well, you won't remember this conversation. It was many years ago, and you and I are alike in a lot of ways. One of them is we don't like messes, and that includes our inbox.
it's true.
And when you admitted yours was empty, your inbox is empty, I was like, that's my new goal. So every day I literally unsubscribe. If you're selling me something I do not
Yeah.
want, you're going to be bye-bye. And I consider it part of my daily task. And I have everything neatly filed now. I mean, this is due to your inspiration, I'm telling you. Because I have a friend who literally has 40,000 emails that have not been dealt with. They're sitting there like a nightmare. Like I could get like heart palpitations over it. And that's what's happening to Gen Z. And I get it. They react negatively. 36% say it causes them anxiety. They have over 1,000 unread emails. It's going to be a real issue.
goodness. I will say people that let it get into the hundreds, and I know that that's not actual like work or important, love notes or anything that you want to keep. But I will say I have gotten into a bad place of when people want to subscribe me to things. I'm like, oh yeah, sure,
Yeah.
go ahead. But I
Oh,
never
yeah.
read them. So every
Right.
day I'm going through and I'm swiping at least 10 or
Yep.
12. So I'm in that place now where I do need to have like a summertime purge of things that are just going in the trash anyway.
Well, and you unsubscribe and then get agitated because it's the same thing is coming to you, but it takes about 2 weeks. They must unsubscribe you.
Yeah.
So it will go away. The pain may last a little while. Well, a guy is in a lot of pain, very lonely, 70 years old. His name is Al, Sweetwater, Texas, sweet little town, Sweetwater. And he said, I'm tired of being alone. So he paid $400 a week. The billboard is so giant. You can see it from the moon. And it's his little face. And he's on there saying, I want marriage and karaoke. Please contact me.
Look at him.
I
For
think
all of our
he's so
TV watchers.
sweet.
Yeah.
And guess what? The
He-
response, 400 phone calls, 50 emails, almost immediately. Yes, I want to meet you.
That's awesome. People are lonely. People
Oh,
want companion. People and a
right.
transparent man. I mean, like, come on. I love that. Like, be transparent as a guy. Don't, I mean, while yes, we grew up in a generation where you suppressed and brushed feelings under the rug, we now live in a time and age where you can be yourself and just go, I just want to be me, and then be
Yeah.
happy about that. So yay for him. That's a lot of cash. Like I would have just gotten an app and tried to do the same thing on the trials. I'm going to find love in 30 days. That's me. Love on a dime.
For free, plentyoffish.com for free. Yeah, I get it. That is a lot of cash. And to see anybody's face, including mine, that large would be really overwhelming. but that's okay. Let's look at God's word, shall we? John 15, verses 4-5. Abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. How many times have we just fallen in love with this scripture?
Yeah.
He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. Without me, you can do nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's a phenomenal scripture, don't you think?
I love it. And it reminds me of the song by Chris August that kind of is based on the same. It's called Abide in Me. And so as I was reading the verses this morning, like that's what was going on in my head, is to find that worship song like that really extends to that place where we can abide in his presence and know that he's got something grand in store today.
Tell when someone is abiding in him. Like when I wasn't a believer and I was in radio and I had to record a show and I had a guest come in and he had a minister homeless. And I thought, okay, we're going to get through this and listen. I call it Jesus eyes. I looked in this man's face. He didn't have to say anything. And he wasn't forceful with me. He wasn't trying to pull something on me. He wasn't trying to tell me I'm wrong. He wasn't trying to convince me to do other. He was just peaceful and joyous and shining. And I thought there's something different about him. What was the different? Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I love is when you really let Christ shine through you, even if people don't know what it is about you. But I think I've heard this story from you where people have said, I don't know what's different about you, but I want to know what it is. Like, especially because like you and I mean, we still live in the same town that in our hellacious days, and there are people like, I knew Roxanne when we was in the bar. And I'm like, yeah, look at her now winning for Jesus. Like, and I know you hear some of that too.
Yeah, a guy called a radio show and said, I know there's a Jesus, because if that's Roxanne on the radio talking about Jesus, he said, I remember her. And I was, how dark was it? What bar were we in? So there's a little bit of truth right there. Well, speaking truth, a real truth teller that I think is very brave, very dedicated is our friend Turan Newell. Oh my goodness. Like house that I'm in, really kind of a miracle because it was complicated. Another house with someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. And then I bought this one. And it was crazy. And Turan made it happen. And our interest rate is nominal. And he can help you right now to get in the home of your dreams.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to think about the fact of what you are planning to move into as you get into the summer months so that you can either be in a better school district or you need a bigger home or you just want to refinance. It's really great right now because through the month of May, 5.5 fixed and then 6% conventional. Kind of cool. He's working with contractors to help build homes as well. So let him help you. Alabama and Florida families are welcome. Give him a call at 205-259-1656 or go to bhammortgage.com.
Roxanne and Ace Unlimited guest tonight is a wife, a homeling mother of not one, not two, 10. Oh,
My
I have
mind
to
just blown right
pause.
there.
I've never talked to anyone doing that. So, wow. She is a best-selling author, blogger, a fitness instructor. Okay. The questions I know you do too. And she's a best-selling author, new book. You're going to want to gobble it up. This comes from a bestseller called Hard is Not the Same Thing as Bad. Isn't that good? Hard's not the thing as bad. Good. So welcome tonight, Abby. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, Abby, just explain the title because within itself, it poses so many questions in the fact that everybody just believes that hard, okay, well, this is a bad situation. I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, I really do think we have a culture that has sold us a lie that Satan would love us to believe that anytime we deal with something challenging or anytime we're actually dealing with true suffering, in fact, that it has to be a negative thing. And the thing is, that's not what scripture tells us. It's really clear in Jesus' own words that in this world we will have trouble, not we will have an easy road or that we will have automatic success or that we will never have to work for anything, but instead we will have trouble, but that we are to be of good cheer, for he has overcome this world. So there's hope. There's no lack of hope whatsoever. But I really think it does torpedo our ability to parent well, to be a good spouse, to be a Christian that follows hard after the heart of God when we are looking at it from a worldly perspective of, listen, if there are bumps in the road, then I don't want to be on this road.
A homeschooling mom of 10. Do tell us all about that.
Well, I'm a second generation homeschooler. So my mom, people a lot of times assume that I came from a really big family. I didn't. I just have one older brother. My family would have grown, I think, had my parents been able to make things happen that the Lord did not have happen for them, but the Lord gave them 2 kids. And so my mom was a first generation homeschooling mom who technically was breaking the law way back when she homeschooled my brother. You know, they were fighting for the right in Texas, which is where we live, to homeschool and home educate their own children. And so I love that she was on the forefront of that and gave me such a solid, wonderful education, both in academics and in the instruction of the Lord. And I always, from an early age, wanted to pass that along to my own kids. Had no clue how many the Lord would give us, in fact, but we really enjoy homeschooling. We enjoy spending time together throughout the day. Of course, it's not always idyllic. There's always some distraction or some mess somewhere at all times, but it's so good. It's not easy, but it's not bad. It's hard, but it's good.
I'm sure you have plenty of stories, so we'll definitely save that for another time. I would love to hear your thoughts, especially when you have 10. There are some of us that have only a couple of kids at home, and we're like, how do I make this work? What do you say to moms that are trying to find peace in the midst of their own chaos, despite how many children they may have?
Yeah, I think that I often tell moms who say, you know, the same thing you're saying. I have 2, you have 5 times that many. I'm drowning. You don't seem like you're drowning. Hey, it depends on the day, but the Lord's grace is sufficient, certainly. And I always tell them that my hardest mothering years were when I had 2 small children, both of whom were like 3 and under, because our first 2 are 18 months apart, and they couldn't do anything for themselves. So the biggest thing that I want to encourage moms through is that not only is that hard not bad, it is being used by the Lord to grow them, to give them the kind of perspective that helps them to face the next challenge they face, whether it's another child with a different personality, maybe even a harder personality. I actually have two sets of twins, and both sets have been really challenging toddlers. But my second set, even though in some ways they're more challenging than my first set, because they came 8 years later and I was able to grow in some, in some abilities, in some maturity, in some patience, and some techniques or coping mechanisms, parenting techniques, they don't seem as challenging. So I'm always encouraging moms not to make big decisions or to bail out in the midst of the hard, where it seems like you can't make it through. The Lord usually gets us through the trouble for today, which is why we're encouraged in Scripture not to worry about tomorrow, because today has enough trouble of its own. If we can throw ourselves on His mercies today, there's going to be new ones tomorrow.
What do you consider a successful day as a mom of 10?
So for us as a homeschooling family, a quote unquote successful day will be one that we usually start around 7:30 a.m. with family Bible reading. My husband works from home, and so he'll get all the kids up. Man, successful is a relative term because we may have so many interruptions during that family Bible reading. If somebody's picturing all of us lined up with our hands clasped, sitting up straight, everything's perfect. It's just not. It's not at all like that. However, I think there's a lot of reward, a lot of joy, and a lot of worth in kind of leaning into the messy middle of your life rather than looking just at the successful quote unquote outcome. So we do Bible reading in the mornings as often as we can. We'll have breakfast together. I do fitness instruct in the mornings, and I'll take the little ones with me so the younger ones or the middle ones can work on math that I've set them up for. We'll have lunch together. We just do a lot of together. We'll play outside a lot. And we usually have dinner together if at all possible. I'm starting to have these older teens. I have a 16 and 18-year-old, and they definitely want to run off with friends, and it's a new era of not always being together. But we just like hanging out a lot.
So I'm just going to be bold and ask, what are the rules of technology in your house?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about that. So our older kids that drive, which are the 16 and 18-year-old, do have their own phones. We do have limitations on what websites they can go to set on those phones. And I really, really encourage parents to, if they have a teen that has a phone that has access to the internet, there are phones like Gab phones and things like that that don't. Ours are regular phones, but we have limitations and filters on them. They also know we're welcome to pick up their phone at any time and look at text or web browser history, and they are fine with that. We also have an open room policy, so they do not take phones or devices with screens inside rooms and closed doors. You'll often find the phone in the hallway at our home because my 18-year-old is in the bathroom and he knows not to take the phone. I mean, he chooses to put his phone outside in the hallway because he knows they're not supposed to be behind closed doors. For anyone that's not driving, we just have family devices. So we have something called the kid phone, which is just an old phone that we've used or that we've kept, and they can use it with permission to text friends that we have said, yeah, that's fine. Or they'll ask us to look up a recipe or to look at a YouTube video on lizards or snakes or something that they're really into. So I think just that constant casual conversation between kids about the way of integrity to deal with devices is really important to us.
Do you think that they are like sponge taking in everything that we say and do? How important is our character when it's on display for our children to view?
Oh man, the Bible clearly says that life and death are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat of its fruit. When we speak life to our children, they will get to eat the fruit of life. They will get to eat the fruit of encouragement and joy and knowing they are loved and being called to account, even because I think the fruit of life can very much so be chastising and correcting. We know that if we just give a blanket approval to everything that everyone does, that's not the same thing as the kind of love that Jesus gives when he says, go and sin no more. And so we speak that truth and that life into our children. And then it also says that we are going to give an account in heaven, which is this so convicting, for every careless word that we speak. And I think part of that is because we are charged as parents to impress upon our children God's ways, to impress upon them his laws. It talks about this in Deuteronomy 6 through 8, as we lie, walk, sit, and stand, which covers like every aspect of our life. So yes, as we are baking with our children, as we are doing math with them, as we are going on walks with them, even as we are having to discipline or engage in correction, they are absolutely watching every move. And that's that can be scary, but I don't think it's been as a scary thing. I think it's been as an amazing opportunity that even when we mess up, we have the ability to model grace and compassion and forgiveness and asking for forgiveness too.
That's good. So I have to be nosy and ask about your girl cave.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm sitting in right now. I don't have office hours. I don't have an office. I am a homeschooling, stay at home, work from home, home managing mom that fits podcasts like this or anything else that I do with writing books or anything in the cracks. Absolutely. So right now I am in my girl cave, which is just a fun name for a room full of colorful furniture and a place that I can come and do podcasts and write, or that my kids can come hang out because it's definitely not off limits to them. And right now I'm in the Girl Cave podcasting, and I have my 11-year-old daughter downstairs making spaghetti. So, that's how it works. We work together as a family for sure.
We could keep you all night, but I do have to ask one more quick thing. What about overscheduling with today's kids and the anxiety they feel as a result?
I think that we, as the parents, are the gatekeepers of both their schedules and their hearts. We are charged with creating a greenhouse. I like to think of it, not a bubble, but a greenhouse, which is a protective and safe and nurturing environment where they can grow. You can still see what's going on outside and you can go out into the world, but we're responsible for the things that we let into our home. And so I talked about a quote unquote successful day for us looking like having dinner together. As much as possible, that's something we're going to safeguard. We're not going to layer a bunch of activities on top of that. With as many kids as we have and still wanting to allow them to do things, we have to be really strategic. So I have 3 kids at the same piano lesson because I found a teacher who would teach all of them at once.
Wow.
Or we have a group of kids that do soccer, or we have some kids that carpool, but we make sure that we're not filling up every night with things, because that family center is so key to just that sense of belonging and centeredness that they need.
So good. The book is called Hard is Not the Same Thing as Bad, and of course, available wherever you like to buy books. Abby, you also have a podcast. Tell us a little bit about that for people who want to check it out.
Yeah, so I do a weekly Q&A on my Instagram called, and you can find me at Emma's for Mama if you're looking, called What Do You Want to Know Wednesday? And so I get FAQs there. So I have endless podcast content from moms that are like, what, the same questions you're asking. What about screen time? What about family time versus overscheduling? How do we engage our children's hearts? How do we spend enough time with each one of them? How do we help with sibling rivalry? All of these topics and more are covered. It's probably one of my favorite things that I get to do, because it's like sitting down with a hot drink with friends. I don't get to see them face to face, but it's just fun to share.
Abby Halberstadt, you're amazing. Thank you for spending time with us, and we wish you the very best always.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
All right, so we always like to check in on each other's vibe of the week. Roxanne, I know it's probably been a very difficult week for you, but you had something kind of cool happen at Margaret's funeral.
Well, Mama passed away, and we buried her yesterday, as a matter of fact. And Jane put together a 7-minute video of her life. And when you look back at a life that goes 0 to 90, it's packed.
Yeah.
But her life was about people. Yes, she did some pretty fabulous trips and did some fun things and worked for NASA and graduated college when a lot of women didn't do that, and was really fascinating, wonderful person. But it was those babies that she taught for 43 years, 3rd graders in Sunday school. All of them at that funeral, the generations of people impacted by her. I just thought, that's life.
Yeah.
That's what a life of service is about. It's about love. It's not about stuff. I wish I could go back and tell my 20-something self, it's not about, life is not about stuff.
So all the 20-somethings that listen need to hear this and understand.
They're like,
I
don't need to hear that.
Yeah. It's not about your career.
And your
You
vibe?
can't take my vibe this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my vibe this week, I can't show it to you because I'm using it right now, but I'm going to show you a picture of it. I bought a new drum rug for my drum set in our basement where I practice and work on music. And for those that aren't a drummer, the reason you need a drum rug is so that your drums don't slide all over the floor, because otherwise you hit the bass drum and it goes pew across the room.
Oh.
But it also catches all of your drumstick shaving. So that way you just, can vacuum it right up. So I found this really cool one that you can see with the music note for those
that's
watching on YouTube.
beautiful.
So it's got a cool
Yeah.
little vibe, and the drum set, and there's a picture of that's not my drum set, but that's how it would work, is it sits directly in the middle. And then I bought a cover to lace over it because we have a cat, and Charlie likes to, let his fur just fall wherever it will, and I don't want it on my drum set. So I'm like, it's like, when you get a sports car, you rub it with a diaper and you don't let the kids around it. So it's kind of how I've been with it. But my vibe is that I have it's my own little jam space, that I can just kind of fall into when I need it.
How about, I didn't know there was such a thing as a drum rug, or that shavings come off when you're drumming?
When you hit a cymbal or a hi-hat, it takes the little chippy, like when you're playing on a drumstick, it chisels down. So next time you're at church, go up to the drummer and say, "Let me see your sticks." And you'll see where all the little chippings have come off, unless they're playing an electric kit, and then it's just hitting then it's just pads. But that's a totally different scenario. But yeah, so it's a very real thing. And I've broken many sticks. I've had tips fly off because you shave it all the way down to where, it's no bigger than a pencil. And, and you say, "Boo, well, there goes the tip." So you just have to flip the stick and keep playing, So it's a necessary evil. I'm just going to leave that. We want to thank you for being a part of the show this week. Thanks to My Brother's Cup and Birmingham Mortgage Group, as well as to Abby for joining us. And make sure you check out all the links, subscribe, follow, so that way you don't miss future episodes. It's a 3-day weekend, so no excuse.
Yay!
Everybody gets a nap. So enjoy and have a great one. Roxanne, I love you.
Love you.
You've been listening to Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. To make sure you don't miss future shows, you can subscribe anywhere you like to podcast and catch up on anything you've missed. Find out more at RoxanneandAce.com. Roxanne and Ace Unlimited is a production of Spacebird Media.